as well.
Yeah.
Right,
you're right.
Good, excellent. Hi everyone, my name is Julia. Just a little bit about myself. So I've been working in project delivery now for over 15 years. Had the pleasure of working for many years with Phil on one of our gigs. So thanks for the invite to come and present. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Agile. I was traditionally working in waterfall projects for a very long time, and I didn't find that worked too well. So I hope everybody can see this. So working in waterfall was usually something like this, where between the customer describing something, everybody had a different view. That usually ended up in a lot of pain, because when we ended up doing UAT, it didn't work, or the customer had something else, or whatever it was. So lots of challenges, and after a long time, I was starting to get very frustrated, because usually it was the project manager that, of course, was at fault. So I was lucky enough to work at an organization that went through an Agile transformation at the time. And so I happened to fall into Agile by pure coincidence. So based on that transformation, I've sort of never looked back, and I'm really a strong believer of going on an Agile journey. Funnily enough, my husband hates Agile with a passion. He's actually probably one of the most Agile working people, because he works in research and development. But yeah, he doesn't understand it. He had a couple of bad experiences with what Agile meant. So based on that, I thought I'll take people through actually what Agile is and isn't. And we'll also have a quick 15-minute game after my little talk, where we'll experiment a little bit with what we can do. Okay, so quickly wanted to talk about a bit of background. So Agile was been around forever and a day, but about 20 years ago, a lot of people from software development in America went to a ski lodge and drank a lot of wine, and as part of that wrote up what we call the Agile Manifesto. That is based on 4 values and 12 principles. I won't bore you with that right now. Go and have a look at it. There's a lot of stuff online. So I wanted to talk about what, to me, fell out of that as the core concepts and principles that are Agile. So the first one to me is continuous improvement. So what we focus on as part of an Agile delivery, and I won't call it a project because I don't call it a project anymore, we focus on constantly improving. So we run in short cycles, we stop, we review, we learn, and based on that learning we keep going. So this is not the old way of going. We have, project that runs for a year, we do design, we build. At some point we get UAT, which is usually shrunk, because by this stage we have, run out of time because we had problems, and UAT is always the first thing that can get smaller. So then we deploy, and something happens. We have defects, we have problems, So regular reviews, continuous improvement, and really turning that away. The team do that together, not individually, and you take your learnings, document them, and then try and apply them. So you get faster and better as you go. So next example or principle is incremental delivery of value. So if you look at this in a waterfall world, we would have started at the bottom, put a plan together, and then at the end, where the goal was, had an output at the end. There were no iterative outputs throughout the delivery. We couldn't look at what we were doing, other than the developers or whatever it is did their own testing. This is different. So you start breaking your work up into small pieces of value that you present to your customer, your stakeholder, your product owner, whoever it is. You let them inspect it, and if they like it, it goes into production, meaning they can start using it straight away. That A, reduces the risk, it B, gives value early, so you're starting to draw down on your investment as soon as possible, rather than implementing after a year. That might mean, which is then the third most important thing, that we can change and pivot. We might release something, our customer has changed. The product is not as high in demand as we thought it would be. We're moving to a different technology, so we need to bin our project because we can't longer build on it. So there's all these factors that can impact a project. I worked for a company that were doing a major SAP implementation. It was a complete rebuild. They deployed, and it was a disaster after, I don't know, 2.5, 3 years, because they had not let their end users test the solution in production and had not let them play with it. So they rolled it out, business processes were all wrong. It was a major cluster F. So people didn't want to use it, people hated it, they thought it was clunky. They basically had to abandon it and had to go back to scratch or back to their old work methods because their customer at the end of the day didn't want it. Agile Mindset, probably the biggest. An Agile Mindset is a whole new way of working. It's about having values as a team that we agree on. It's about building a culture that we trust each other. And to me, this underpins everything that we operate in. There is no more us against them or a me. We operate as a team and we together change and move forward as a team. Agile is a lot bigger. I've included the picture on the left if you want to have a look at that, but it's basically really about being in an adaptive, open mindset where we are happy to work together and we trust each other. So what is Agile not? Sorry?
I just had a question on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to use a microphone. What is your view about companies actually having an Agile mindset? A lot of companies I've worked for in the past, it's such a culture shift that they try and do it and they just can't get it working. Haven't got the right concepts or whatever, but it does need a culture shift. And so what have your experiences been to the organisations where you've been at?
So it depends. The area I currently work in is an operations team that's offshore and onshore, and the manager of that team is massively supportive because you get that support and that mindset is there. It works. Where it's not there, you can probably go so far, but overall I would say you're probably at some point going to fail. To me, mindset, whether it's agile or not, all these values that you see here realistically is really where organizations should be heading towards. You know, diversity of thought, inclusion. I see a lot of that around. I don't think people always know how to deal with it. It can be quite threatening. But yeah, I think if you don't have this, you're likely at a large agile transformation project, you're not going to succeed. Yeah. Okay, so what is agile or what isn't it? It is definitely not a silver bullet. You're not just going to put it in and go, yay, done. It is not anti-planning. A lot of people believe that in agile we don't plan. We're not structured, we do what we want. Not true. That includes having proper documentation. That includes having contracts where we need them, but they're fit for purpose. They are not a 25-page template that we must fill in because our methodology says so. It is actually something that we'll write up if we need it, not just because it's a tick in the box. Agile is not just tooling, so I meet a lot of people and they say, yeah, we use Jira and we use Confluence and we use CI/CD. That is not Agile. It supports your Agile ways of working. It is not Agile. And last but not least, this is one, there is a video going around on LinkedIn where this guy gets interviewed and he's in tears laughing because his company released straight into production without testing and it broke everything. We still test. It's a myth that we don't test, and if we don't test, then there's something wrong with our approach. So, based on that, just a couple things that I took away from a couple of the programs I've worked on. So one of the first teams I worked with, we achieved 86% of automated testing. That reduced our cycle time, that we were able to build, test and deploy in a sprint. And up before that point, it probably would have taken us at least 3 sprints. We had 0 critical or major defects. We were able to release our first set of value that the customer could use at the end of sprint 3. The project continued to run for almost 6 months, but they could start using it straight away. It was important for them because they had some critical reports they needed and data because they were dealing with medical emergencies. So it gave them an immediate boost on what they could do. Another project I work on, we delivered 5G capability to Telstra a year early. That was amazing. They had basically built their roadmap further out and they had it a lot earlier. Batch run times is one of my operations team. We reduced them by over 2 hours, meaning that the business could run critical reports first thing in the morning rather than having to wait. And we had some significant time savings through the automation. What didn't work is, to Phil's point, where you don't have the mindset and the leadership that embraces that. So a couple of the do's and don'ts, and then we'll go straight into our game. You need a culture of trust. And as a team, you guys need to work together and determine what that is, and that can be very different depending on the people you work with. Really important to agree what's acceptable as a behavior. There are some good tools you can use to establish that and then move forward. Trusting the teams, if you're working at a higher level as a product owner or stakeholder, that the teams will make the right decisions because the teams know best how to build stuff. That's what they do, that's what they're trained to do, that's their passion. So if I've had a couple of product owners that came in and were technical themselves and then started trying to fiddle with a solution, that's not your role. So leave your team to let them decide. By all means discuss it, but let them build and trust that they will do to their best ability. Automate, automate, automate. A lot of people don't believe in that investment. So what you find is while you lose time up front in the automation, it is incredible how fast your teams will run if you invest in it up front and how much long-term time saving and quality improvements you will have. Your product owner and or stakeholder needs to be regularly involved. That is not just popping up once in a blue moon and having a look, but actually being regularly involved in discussions, in meetings, guiding the team, inspecting the work and pulling them through. So one of the biggest successes we had a very engaged product owner. It made the product so much more successful and a lot quicker. All right, don'ts. Do not put a waterfall schedule into a sprint plan. I've seen it so many times. We still put a waterfall schedule together. We put stories into tasks and put them into Jira, and then we're agile. Don't, because at the end of the day, you may as well not bother. Lack of leadership engagement. You need to find a person that drives. So you cannot just expect that somebody comes in, the CEO walks in and says, we're agile now, and then leaves. You need assistance from the top, so you've got to lobby. You've got to find someone who has a passion. Not always easy, but I think there's usually someone in the business that's keen. Focus on me or a superstar as a team goes away. We operate as one team, we support each other. That means that if needed, we help each other out because we own the commitment together. And last but not least, don't train and run. What I mean by that is, don't expect because you put your team in a room, you train them, and then we're agile and we move on. It's a journey. It needs investment and ongoing cultural changes, ongoing improvements. Transformations run for years, and even then you need to still continue to support it. Your HR team is really important there. If you have a good change management team, just making sure they're engaged. Great. Before we play the game, any questions? Yes?
You may be expecting this one. Automated testing have to have for Agile?
Have to have?
Automated testing.
Yeah, I would say yes.
So have you had any experience with SAP teams implementing proper automated testing?
No, so we did it, it was a data implementation. We haven't done it on SAP. So
Did you say an OData implementation?
it was a data implementation on the teaser. So it was automated testing, but it wasn't an SAP solution. So where you have technical limitations, yep, by all means, but try and work something out. I really encourage my teams to be creative and think out of the box. And again, they know best what will probably work and what won't. Yep.
Just in regard to architecture, have you had challenges with integrating having architecture built into the whole process?
Yes, you have. What the key successes were for me is that you put everybody in a room and plan together. So this is where you have it's a safe methodology. So I'm trained in safe or scaled agile, and one of the key events they have on a quarterly basis is called PR planning. You have everybody in a room that is involved with your product. That's your architects, your security people, operations. They are all there and they talk about it together. If you're starting something out, I would probably have like a kickoff workshop specifically with the architect and the developers. But on an ongoing basis, your architecture team needs to be on the journey.
So that you can evolve.
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Often that gets so focused on sprinting and just output.
Need to be strong, and the architects I also find are not always interested to be involved in the nitty-gritty stuff on an ongoing basis. I would like to see them come along as part of a product inspection. Regular shows, guys, come and have a look, ask questions. Yeah, really important. Yes?
How many weeks of sprint?
Yes?
A sprint should be how long?
Yeah. So recommended, I would say, is 2 weeks. 1 week. So the question was how long should a sprint be? I would say 2 weeks is usually what most teams land on. 1 week is too rushed. 3 or 4 weeks, your feedback cycle gets too long. Depends, I've seen 3 weeks, but usually 2 weeks I find, because you can, 2 weeks ahead you can plan. 3 weeks, 4 weeks, it gets a bit harder because might be too many changes. So that's what I'd recommend. Yeah.
Somewhere in the Agile Manifesto is written that we were working code more than implementation, right?
Yeah.
That makes it sound like very technical. But I know, for example, there are companies who use Agile even like out of their IT organizations.
Yeah.
Does it mean that Agile works much better for IT, or can it be adapted also like for other areas?
Absolutely. So I think it stems from IT because it was developed in software development, but you can do, there's not one.
Adapted, because, for example, working code, that wouldn't mean anything.
Okay.
So you drop one of the principles.
Yeah. So ideally you want your whole business running in Agile, whether that is your leadership team that reviews regularly and plans, whether that is your marketing department, your sales department. At the end of the day, the principle stays the same. You have a look at what do we want to work on, and then the team commits to that, comes together, reviews it at the end of the time period that you use, and so on. So whether you're working on an IT product, focusing on your sales channels, whether you want to, you're in marketing and you're working on certain programs or whatever, you can do it. Absolutely. Done? Great. Okay, we're going to go get up and move. So there is cans of tennis balls on multiple tables. So could I get you all to form groups of 5 people? And you are allowed to mingle and meet others, not just hang in your own group. All right. Does every team have tennis balls? If not, let me know. I've got a couple spares.
I have done this several times.
Okay.
And
do you want to maybe just?
I think I might just.
Okay. All right.
Can we get seats in the parties?
You've got to stand.
Can we have 6
Yes, go for 6 if that works. There is one rule that won't apply for you guys, or might be a bit tricky, but that's okay. So everybody in a team that has tennis balls.
There's 4 here, so this team can take.
There you go.
Another player.
Everybody good? Great. Okay. The goal of the game is that you want to pass on as many balls through your team as possible in a fixed time box. You will run in 3 iterations. First 2 minutes in the first iteration, you get together and you have a discussion on how you want to do it. Then the next time box is 2 minutes where you execute, and 1 minute you have time to review, discuss what you want to adjust. Then we run the second round, which is execution, and another retrospective, and 1 more. Rules. Each ball must have airtime. So you can't hand over hand to hand, even if it's this far, it needs to be in the air. Everybody in the team must touch the ball to count for 1 round, and 1 round equals 1 point. So in your case, once the ball has passed through all the 5 people and you've touched it, 1 point. You cannot pass your ball to your direct neighbor on either your left or right side. Each ball must return to the initial starting point, and the ball must not touch the floor. So if you drop it, your count goes back to 0 and you start from scratch. Questions? Can you, sorry, what? Yeah, if you want. Any other questions?
But each ball must have airtime.
Yeah.
Is that each ball for the round or each ball for every pass?
Every time you pass a ball on, it must have airtime. Okay, just before you start, 1 person in the team, as we have three iterations, I need someone in the team to remember how many points per round you achieved. Normally we put this on a whiteboard, but we're a bit rushed, so 1 person just needs to maybe take note or memorize what was achieved. Is there any more questions before I start the timer? 2 minutes. Go.
Balls do they use?
3.
I cannot pass on each other.
Yeah, perfect. Great. Yes, yeah. So you use all 3 balls. You can use less. It's up to you.
You can use less.
You can use less if you want.
You can use only 1, like as
Yeah, if you want to use it as a trial, absolutely. Your call, it just probably means you're going to get less throughput, but that's fun. Yes. You can use up to 3 balls if you want to start with 1 to experiment, by all means, but 3.
Practice it in the first round.
round one.
I've given them an extra minute. That's right. Okay. Okay. That was your planning session finished? Everyone? We ready to start? Are we ready to start? That was planning time done. Okay, give me a sec. On the count of 1, 2, 3. Go. Okay. Next sprint. Are we all ready to go? Okay, guys. Guys, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Go. Okay, stop. Remember your numbers. 1 minute for retrospective, and then we're doing the last round. And one tip, the more airtime you have, the longer you will take. So how do you reduce your airtime? Good teamwork is really, yeah, good ideas and. Okay, stop. How do we go? What was each team's highest count? Let's go through the room. Guys on my right. Guys? Guys, what was your highest count? 40. In which round? Round 2. Interesting. Guys at the back?
Yeah, 37 in round 2.
83 around 3.
How many?
83.
Guys at the back, what's your highest count?
39 in 2.
Yeah. You guys?
48 in round 3.
Okay. So, guys with the highest points, do you want to step us through? A little demo?
Can we do that? So I just streamline.
Is it airtime?
Big close, one close, help.
Yeah, well done. Good stuff. Great. Great. Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed that.